This boy is only 6 years old, but he has been used to his mother's beatings every day since he was born. He has never seen his father's face because 6 years ago, his biological mother died giving birth to him. His father lost hope in life, locked himself in his room, and never came out. The lady of the house saw him as a bastard child and beat him every day until her hands were covered in blood, but she still didn't want to stop. Today they had distinguished guests, and his father finally came out of his room. The visitor was his father's older brother, who came to Nangong with his sword. That year, if it weren't for him saving his life, the title of Sword Emperor would no longer exist in the world, and everyone would have forgotten about his emaciated appearance back then. He was the strongest swordsman of the Flat Moon Sword. This time the guest came here with his family to form an alliance with his junior brother. But when it was time for introductions, Nangong John's daughter had disappeared. Meanwhile, John Yelha was hiding in a corner being punished. His thin and weak body couldn't take it anymore and he fell down. When he woke up and saw someone coming, he thought it was the lady of the house and immediately apologized profusely. But in front of him was a beautiful girl. She was Nangong John's daughter. Just by looking at John's hair color, she knew that he was her uncle's son. This thin and weak body must have been caused by the lady of the house. John unexpectedly stroked his head and even said, "From now on I will protect you." It was just one sentence, but it made him cry uncontrollably. Since he was born, no one had ever treated him normally. Miss John led him outside through a hole in the wall. This was also the first time Yelha went out and saw the outside world. His stomach was very hungry, so John bought him some skewers of gourds. Although it was just a snack, he didn't know it tasted so good. Not long after, they were found by Nangong's guards and dragged back. At this time, his father's condition became more serious. He also revealed the family's swordsmanship passed down from Gu Tian, but he could no longer feel her presence. That was also the day when the second lady died in childbirth and he didn't even dare to look at his son. His last request was for his senior brother to take care of his children for him. At this time, Miss John had also been found and everyone still didn't know who the ragged child next to her was when the lady of the house ran over pretending to be worried. "Why are you like this? Do you know how worried I am for you?" John's hateful gaze made her shiver. As soon as the guests left, she changed immediately and Yelha began to tremble. "Clearly I told you to hide well. How long do you want to embarrass me?" After that, there was no doubt that it was a beating half alive half dead. In July of that year, John Mugong passed away while he was sleeping. As soon as her husband died, Midu summoned 20 martial artists from her family to join Manor White Tiger to help protect and increase her power in Manor. At the same time, their eldest son went to Nangong for cultivation according to his father's last wish. And then the lady of the house became the true owner of Dragon Land. She frantically searched for her husband's martial arts secrets but couldn't find them. Then she ordered everything related to John Muriel to be thrown into storage. Immediately had to make sure they were out of sight and threw that bastard away too. So Yelha was thrown into a pile of things belonging to a father he had never seen before. Despite begging however much he could, luckily they still had some humanity left and brought food and drink for him every day, but it was too hard already. It felt like chewing on dirt instead of food. At that moment, Yelha saw something shining in his father's pile of things. It turned out to be a mirror. He carefully cleaned it and saw himself in the mirror, unable to help but sigh. "You were abandoned too, weren't you?" Suddenly, his reflection in the mirror smiled at him. "What is going on?" Time passed and 2 months went by. Yelha was still locked up there in the cold winter, and the people outside thought he had died inside. Yelha was huddled in a corner because of the cold. Inside the mirror, there was non-stop dancing. But after watching its movements, it seemed familiar. Wasn't this the martial art that his senior brother often practiced, Gu Tian sword law? If Gu Tian sword law could be used correctly, then then martial artists could circulate their internal energy within their bodies and create yang energy around their bodies, so they wouldn't feel cold anymore. Yelha also picked up a stick and started sword dancing. Time passed and eventually he didn't feel cold anymore because he could create yang energy around his body. This was the beginning of Gu Tian's sword law, which could warm him up. He was satisfied like the mirror but also angry about it. It wanted him to become really strong. Yelha was about to put the mirror down, but it started sword dancing again with moves he had never seen before. Then it made a challenging gesture, making him very annoyed and followed along. But these moves were really difficult and after a while he still couldn't do them, and his stomach was still hungry. Yelha carefully thought about it and the 9 movements of Gu Tian's sword law were somewhat similar to those moves just now. But he had never seen his senior brothers practicing it until he was threatened not to watch anymore. Then the magic mirror finally agreed to teach him. It pointed its finger and countless mysterious characters appeared on the mirror. This is Gu Tian Huan Nu's true scripture. In an instant, 900 characters appeared on top of Gu Tian Huan Nu's mirror. Although the content was extremely complicated, John Yelha felt as if the characters were running through his head. This martial arts secret book was Gu Tian Q Kim. Time passed and spring came. Everyone thought Yelha had died in storage. They didn't know that he was shedding his skin every day to practice Gu Tian Q Kim. Time passed and 10 years later, he finally succeeded in cultivation and today was also the day when his senior brother Muabik returned to Dragonland. Accompanying them were young Master Jun and John, Nangong's daughter. She had become a beautiful young lady who stole the hearts of countless people. John ignored her greetings at this time and left to look for something. She wanted to find Yelha but he was no longer here because one day before successful cultivation Gu Tian Q Kim, he had drilled a hole above the storage room and left. And Gu Tian Huan Nu also disappeared and was no longer in the mirror. When the lady of the house found out about this, she immediately ran over. She didn't want to find him at all because in the end, he would have to die. A 6-year-old child in a large body couldn't survive in the outside world. Miss John immediately went to her, her eyes full of murderous intent just like when she was young because the room that she claimed was Yelha's was actually full of new things that had never been used. It was just a cover-up for his disappearance. Then she immediately left and Mubik also suspected this because Miss John had the nickname the one who understands emotions and reason. The junior sister always understood other people's intentions with a smiling face like a flower. Once junior sister was curious about something, she would definitely find out the truth. She acted like this for a reason and her face became angry. You are doubting your own mother, and she finally had to say, he has been locked up in storage for 10 years. Mubik immediately ran over there, but John was already there. It turned out that this was why the lady hid this place so well. This dark and damp storage room could actually be a place where a person could live. In the next 10 years, I have to tell my father, brother is my father's disciple, so he will definitely not spread any rumors, but the relationship between our two families can no longer be like before. Meanwhile, Yelha was wandering outside in ragged clothes. This place had changed a lot compared to 10 years ago. At that moment, he ran into Dragonland's guard and immediately wanted to leave but was called back by him because he looked familiar. But he couldn't go back there, he had to run as fast as possible and he followed closely behind him while the city gate was about to close. However, the guard had appeared behind him at some point and Yelha had to run for his life through the gate but the old man still wouldn't let go and made a shocking sound. Thinking that both of them had been crushed by the city gate, Yelha held it up with one hand while the old man stood still. Go wherever you want, I just mistook you earlier. I'm glad I haven't eaten anything all day and picked some mushrooms by the road to eat temporarily, but it turned out to be poisonous mushrooms. His body lost all its strength and fell down. The next morning, two people discovered that he was lying flat here and decided to take care of Yelha because this was the first time these two saw someone more ragged than themselves. he was taken back to Wufongshan where they were mountain bandits consisting of 6 people called the 6 mountain bandits with their leader Bung John saying, "Since they saved your life, you must have something called gratitude, right? If you don't have money then you have to work hard and make up for it with diligence." Moreover, through their conversation, they also realized that this guy was 16 years old but very stupid and thought he was mentally retarded. After that, they dragged him outside and taught him a lesson that there are 2 types of people in this world, those who rob others and those who constantly lose. Which type of person do you want to become? Do you really want to live in misery like this forever and die in some shabby corner? In the end, he understood and decided to become the type of person who could control his own destiny and become a mountain bandit from now on. He became Wufongshan's 7th disciple. After that, they made him shout loudly, "We are number 1." At this moment, for the first time in his life Yelha felt excited. His stepmother always cursed him and his brothers never cared about him or that hellish storage room. All of them flashed through his mind. It felt like something had hardened in his shattered heart. This new desire for life awakened his spirit. Gu Tian was sleeping soundly when he shouted loudly, "Even if the sky collapses, we are still number 1." The shout sounded like he was releasing everything that had accumulated within him, tearing apart the clouds of this place, marking a new beginning in Yelha's life. Thus began his life as a mountain bandit. He learned how to survive and live on the mountain thanks to the mountain bandits on Wufongshan who took care of him like a blood brother. Yelha was able to quickly open up and adapt to his new life. Their martial arts skills were quite low because most of the mountain bandits on Wufongshan came from ordinary families and were used to being injured whenever the officials patrolled. However, they were always happy and found happiness, even in the smallest things. One day, 2 martial artists came here because they heard that there were terrible mountain bandits here, but it turned out that there were only 7 of them, including a child, who looked like a group of beggars. They came from Qing Lin, which in recent years has been very attractive to mountain bandits and evil sects who have flocked to join, making Qing Lin's power even stronger. Yelha's group also came here to join, but it was clear that he was just a child. In the end, due to the deadline, the leaders here had to accept it because this was the territory of the largest gang and managing them was just for show. But with Yelha here, they would have to be surprised. The next day they raised Qing Lin's flag to collect money and everyone was happy except for Yelha who had to stay home and clean up. This seemed too boring for him. Time passed and after 3 months of housework, he was fed up so he used that time to practice Gu Tian Q Kim. Only when he became strong could he help them. Soon there were several people who wanted to join their Wufong camp. They were fugitives who had beaten the judge's son and a prostitute, run away from a brothel, but when she returned home they wanted to sell her again, so she decided to become a mountain bandit because she found it more interesting than being a prostitute. If she was here, Yelha wouldn't have to do menial work anymore and would have more time to practice swordsmanship. The leader also assigned them according to age, like Johnson suggested that if you have strength then your rank should naturally be higher, right? He had been trained at a martial arts school for 3 years. The leader didn't hesitate to say that if you can beat someone then you will take their position starting from low to high. First, he had to defeat the red-haired guy. Yelha thought silently that if he didn't fight how could he go up the mountain with his brothers? His serious expression made everyone worry about the fight. It started with him punching with his large body, but Yelha easily dodged it. Then his attack also missed because his hand was used to holding a stick, so he was punched by him and flew far away. At that moment, the boss and second boss woke up as if Yelha had never fought before. He kept getting beaten, but now Yelha wasn't like before. A counter-punch full of power was thrown out with a loud bang, shaking the 8th brother who lay motionless, unable to move. The boss and second boss were shocked when they saw this scene. Everyone just saw him rushing towards Yelha, then suddenly lying down. But anyway, he was still the final winner, and for this matter, the boss gave him a big sword and let him go up the mountain with them tomorrow. This made him very happy. After that, the second brother personally taught him Imo-shasho sword law. The second brother really appreciated him. Normally, he didn't teach Imo-shasho kin to anyone. The next day, a group of merchants passed by Wufongshan, and the owner of the group was also worried about the mountain bandits on the mountain. As soon as he finished speaking, several tall and smelly brothers appeared and the boss shouted, "This is the territory of Qing Lin mountain bandits on Wufongshan. If you want to pass through here, you have to pay a toll." The guard immediately laughed, "There are only 10 of you and you dare to call yourselves Qing Lin mountain bandits. We are not fruits that can be picked whenever you want." The boss immediately got angry and ordered everyone to shoot arrows at him, but he was too strong and could easily block them. The boss was now worried about how there could be such a strong guard among the merchants. This time they poked a hornet's nest and he immediately shouted, "Once you come here, don't even think about leaving. Our guards are ready to fight." On this side, the mountain bandits were very scared, but if they turned their backs and ran away, they would all be unable to escape. The boss decided to stay behind and distract them so that everyone could escape while the red-haired guy rushed forward. The guard who had previously looked down on him as just a child becoming a mountain bandit. Yelha's momentum was now very cool. "If you die on Wufongshan, no one is allowed to provoke us." The old guard then looked foolish. Young people nowadays are so hot-tempered. Yelha just said, "If you're about to die, don't waste your breath." His face was now full of blue veins and his speed was lightning fast with one sword strike down, but it was easily broken by Yelha. Everyone who saw this was dumbfounded and didn't understand what had just happened. In an instant, Yelha dodged his attack and swung his sword at super-fast speed, so fast that he couldn't even see him attacking. Yelha's murderous aura was now overflowing as he called for him to find his best weapon and continue fighting. Just now he only aimed at his weapon, but if he had aimed at his neck then he would have died by now. At this moment, he realized that the person in front of him was a great master and immediately kowtowed for mercy because the wound on his neck was caused by sword energy. Yelha didn't make it difficult for them either. As long as they paid an additional toll they would be allowed to pass. When the bosses saw this scene, their faces were dumbfounded. The boss then asked him where he learned those moves from, and Yelha said it was Imo-shasho blade law that the second brother had just taught him, which made him even more dumbfounded. That was just an ordinary sword technique, but how could he use it to chop off that guy's sword? After that, they asked him to demonstrate Imo-shasho blade law for his brothers to see. Yelha didn't refuse once, and all the moves of Imo-shasho Dao were used with terrifying power, directly breaking the big tree in front of them. The brothers were now unable to pick up their mouths. "It's so awesome." After that, they started looking for the second brother to learn Imo-shasho Dao, but even he was curious about who this red-haired guy really was. All merchants passing through Wufongshan had to pay a toll. Some stubborn ones were directly beaten by Yelha, and even the guards of officials couldn't defeat him. The government issued an arrest warrant for Yelha, and from then on rumors about Wufongshan's mountain bandit group also spread. As a result, many people came here to join. If they recruited more people, their camp would have 25 people. Time passed, and after 3 months, Wufongshan's mountain camp became large and its reputation began to spread throughout Hunan. Their morale grew larger along with more enemies appearing who had gathered a lot of intelligence. It is said that the camp leader of Wufongshan used Thienjia blade law learned from a traveling medicine seller, while the deputy camp leader learned Imo-shasho sword law in a temple. However, their Qing Lin identity is not ordinary. The beggars have their own gang, while the mountain bandits have Qing Lin's general manager Fa Tian Ma. Qing Lin's army is famous for being extremely strong. However, in Hunan City, there are no famous camps because it is the territory of the Orthodox sect. The mountain bandits must have been lucky. They were promoted through recruitment, which is ridiculous if they belong to the Qing Lin section. Their goal is to overthrow the Yelha people and become members of the Qing Lin section. At the same time, leader number 10 told Yelha that the newcomers had spoken ill of the camp owner's swordsmanship, which was obtained from a traveling medicine seller. This made him very angry. He wanted to find them and settle accounts, but luckily 2CA stopped him. Otherwise, those people would definitely be beaten and have their limbs broken. The next day, the camp owner called everyone to arrange a promotion match. Whoever wanted to fight could step up. The old men from the previous day were also present to challenge, as usual. The challenger would have to challenge from rank 7 in turn. The old man with white hair began to speak. He wants to be a rank 1 camp owner for a whole year. We are notorious in Hunan City, why should we be afraid of a former traveling medicine seller? This made the elders very angry, but they all had to follow the rules. First, they would have to challenge Yelha. At that time, he was very hot-tempered. His terrifying aura made the old men tremble. It was too murderous and terrifying. Now, none of them dared to step forward first. The 2 old assassins from before shouted, "It's summer and I feel so cold, I must have caught a cold. You guys go first." The nearby people were also worried. At first they didn't say that, someone was directly pushed up to face Yelha's terrifying murderous aura. He was worried and shouted that they were not enemies and only needed to use their bare hands. If he carried a sword, he was afraid he wouldn't survive a single move. As soon as the match started, he used all his strength to rush forward but was knocked down by a punch. The remaining 4 were very surprised and wondered who would be the next victim. The bald guy followed the old way of fighting with bare hands and got the same result, he was always knocked down by a punch. The third guy was a little more stupid and wanted to use weapons but was defeated by a punch from him. The remaining 2 were old men who were still stalling because no one wanted to go up and get hit. Old man Baggio had to resort to tricks and shouted not to use weapons against people from the same mountain camp. So he didn't use his sword either, but that fan was his weapon. Baggio used that fan to become a notorious demon in Hunan province. There was no way to commit suicide by fighting with bare hands at this time. Yelha also realized that fans were not ordinary, which made him really angry. He punched old man Baggio, severely injuring him for daring to cheat in front of him. Everyone was shocked at this point and didn't know if he would survive or not. Only one person remained and he shouted in fear, "I was just joking earlier, that CA begs for mercy." Yelha also agreed to spare him, but if he dared challenge his senior brothers again next time, then he should dig his own grave first, even though it was very unpleasant, but he still had to bow his head before them. Nam Duong Merchant Association rumors that 2 of Hunan City's 3 great demons have surrendered to Wufongshan, and this person is Hunan City's great demon Li Morian. Wufongshan's mountain bandits have been acting arrogantly for a long time now. It is a good opportunity to get rid of those 2 old men. This is like killing 2 birds with 1 arrow. He was confident because he had 90 soldiers, 3 times more than the Ngo camp. That night, Wufongshan was raided, countless fire arrows were shot. They wanted to smoke out the rabbits because Ngo camp only had 1 exit, but the camp owner called for everyone to quickly build a second wall. Outside, Hunan's great demon also had to admire that those people reacted quickly. They were hit by many fire arrows but no one ran out. He was still talking about his tactics when he had to drop his beak because a new wall had been erected inside. This made him very angry. I had anticipated this. If those mountain bandits knew how to use their brains like that, then there would still be another way to destroy them. He personally took a large axe and went inside, and everyone started shouting, "There's a delusional idiot coming, is he carrying an axe to chop wood?" This made the other guy even more angry. The old man could recognize him at a glance. It was the leader of the Nam Duong Merchant Association, Tien Kim Kok Li Miria. That guy didn't know if he was stupid or congenital, but he used an axe to break their wooden wall. Suddenly at this moment, the big wall cracked. It turned out that Yelha had made a move. With his terrifying strength, he knocked him down and just blocked a sword from him. His hand kept shaking. This kid is too strong. Yell Ha asked with murderous aura, is he the one who burned our camp? Even with overwhelming military strength like that, you were so badly defeated that you had to resort to fire arrows? How do you plan to compensate for this now? He immediately became angry and refused to compensate. You guys have been acting arrogantly in Wufongshan. I fight as a representative of Hunan City. Do you think you can live in peace by provoking me? I don't know how you defeated Simyeongguk and Baekjo, but I'm stronger than them. They immediately rushed into each other and attacked. I used the Wu Wei Wu Xian technique to create countless clones to attack him, but they were all blocked. Ranho Ta returned a blow that knocked him back. This guy was also scared. P1-Wei Wu Xian is the martial arts of Yishan's sect, but never in history has a mountain bandit been able to avoid that technique. At this moment, he shouted and asked, where did you learn your martial arts? Of course it's second leader's Emo Shasho blade law passed down personally. Your technique is quite interesting too, can I imitate it? He even challenged him before he finished speaking. Yell Ha successfully copied that move, shocking everyone. How could it be? P1-Wei Wu Xian is the final move and also a secret technique of Lu Kuhei Pu, Yishan sect's swordsmanship, the pinnacle of stillness. Although it looks like just a simple sword strike, in fact there are thousands of changes within that move. Even Yishan's disciples find it very difficult to learn it. Yet all the effort he has been proud of for years has been destroyed by Yell Ha right before his eyes. Is this guy a monster? Just looking at it once can copy other people's martial arts? But he was wrong, all of his clones were real. This clearly surpassed him who had studied this move for decades, and he was beaten to the ground, and only then did he scream for mercy and promised to fully compensate before leaving. In this battle, Wufonging won. With this victory, Wufongshan camp's reputation soared and the number of people joining continued to increase. The forces had to pay attention to this matter, but they did not dare to act because they were still skeptical. Yell Ha is a disciple of Qing Lin Fai's leader P1-P2. If not just a kid, how could he be so strong? The leader of Ma Su Bao Fong Kim Kok Merchant Association Sang Mu Chun had to go to Ho Kwang. He wanted to go to Wushu Mountain for help. Despite everything, he was an outer disciple, and his master was Chun Ji, the elder of Wudong and the leader of the section. Wudong was one of the 10 great sects. The inner disciples here had reached a realm that we couldn't even imagine. If we could bring a few of them here, then what would that red-haired brat be? The day he was defeated would also be the day Wufongshan camp was destroyed. At that time, Yell Ha was leading his junior sisters to eat and drink. With the power of Wufongshan camp, money was not lacking, and he had also bought a new set of clothes. Looking back, he became even more handsome, and the girl in front of him was named Showbiz, who had just joined. Last week, she was threatened by a rogue and had to marry him. So she ran away, and just at this moment, he found her here. He even threatened her with his mouth, saying that if she continued to run away, she would only have death. Yell Ha also had to come forward. Today I'm happy for you for 10 seconds, get out of here. Otherwise, don't blame me for being hot-tempered. Beside him, everyone else was still eating and drinking calmly, not forgetting to remind him, you will die. She also said that we are the Wufong camp, and the person in front of you is the strongest person in Hunan City. At this time, Yell Ha's 10-second countdown had ended. With a loud sound, his body was kicked away, and even the old man behind him was almost knocked down by the force of this blow. He was Chunzi Darun, the elder of Wudong and the leader of the Mansu Business Association. He also ran here to call him master. Don't cause any more trouble for me. I'm just taking a walk and breathing fresh air. Ranho Ta had to hurry away. The whole place had been destroyed by him, but luckily they had enough money to compensate the owner of the stall. Being a mountain bandit also required morality. Afterwards, he called out to compensate for their mental damage by teaching martial arts to 2 of them at the same time. At this time, the elder of Wudong realized that Yelha was not a disciple of P1-P2. Because with his boastful character, I'm sure he wouldn't hide such a little monster. This trip down the mountain wasn't in vain after all, unexpectedly meeting a martial arts genius in such a place. 3 days ago on the mountain, Heo Darin from Wudong brought tea to visit Chun-Ji Darin from Truongman. He came because of the mountain bandits who called themselves Wufongshan mountain bandits who were causing trouble and making it difficult for the business association. If you send another disciple to protect Hunan's peace and help your own disciple, wouldn't it be killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Chun-Ji Darin took on this task himself. Because for 10 years now, he has been frequently divining his future fortune with fortune-telling sticks. This morning he devised a great fortune stick again. Surely this is an opportunity given by God. If he can accept Yelha as his disciple, he will surely become Wudong's strongest swordsman. At that time, the reputation of the sect would soar into the clouds, while Wufongshan Camp's hall would also be completed. This is too grand, because Wufongshan Camp has developed too quickly. Dubayan Camp has helped them build more halls to match their current strength, and to fill those new halls. Panyin Camp Master invited carpenters, soldiers, and their families to come inside the bamboo forest. Yelha was also teaching martial arts to 2 sisters at this time. First, they would have to practice breathing methods. He recited 300 words in one breath, making them stunned. How can we learn so much at once? Ranhota told them to close their eyes and focus on their breaths. Only for a moment they were able to do it. This was also the first time he saw someone practicing martial arts. Then he practiced with concentration, his body floating in midair. This is how you have to reach a realm like this. When they returned to camp, only Dai Xie was there. It turned out that they had received news that Chun-Ji Darin was attacking. Almost everyone had fled. No one knew how to solve this problem because the enemy was too strong. It was time for Wufongshan Camp to end. Chun-Ji Darin was an elder of Wudong. He was the leader of the Wudong sect and had even been the strongest in Hubei. Not only that, but his disciples were also very strong. They couldn't just wait here to die. Only 10 people remained, but all were in despair. At this moment, Yelha asked the boss if Darin could kill someone with a leaf. If he wasn't that strong, he could still handle it. However, Dai Xie couldn't let his brother fall into danger, so he immediately announced that Wufongshan Camp would be disbanded to protect everyone's lives. Although he didn't want to, as the leader, Dai Xie couldn't abandon this place and stayed alone to live or die with them when the walls fell. Everyone also appeared to defend it. This was their home, and they wouldn't let anyone destroy it. What did Dai Xie intend to do here after announcing the disbandment of the camp? Didn't that mean we would live or die together? That night, they rebuilt the walls and took turns guarding them, even if they had to die with this place. Also that night, they cut their blood and swore to each other. The next morning, Chun-Ji Darin's army attacked while the brothers were still sleeping. Yelha woke up. He couldn't sleep because he was worried about this battle. Dai Xie also couldn't sleep like him. And they made a few moves. At this moment, the soldiers arrived outside. I am Sang Mu-chun, leader of Mansu Merchant Association. Surrender your camp. If you still resist, we will kill you all. Dai Xie rushed forward at this moment. He couldn't put all the responsibility on Yelha. But there were too many enemy soldiers. He thought to himself that it would be over anyway. He might as well fight a little more and started cursing at him. Do you think we will be afraid and run away because of a few old men? Do you think you can deceive us? Even if someone is stronger than Chun-Ji Darin, what do we have to fear? Of course, he couldn't let his reputation be insulted. With a loud shout, he could knock down Dai Xie. Ranhota suddenly approached. Luckily Yelha was in time to fight him, a sword strike with terrifying momentum. What kind of person is Chun-Ji Darin? I felt a great power emanating from that sword strike. But I am stronger. Yes, you are very good at talking. I have a compliment for you. At your age, You have outstanding talent. But it seems you are too arrogant. And at this moment, I also find this old man very familiar. It seems I met him at a restaurant before. Despite his feeling that the old man was very strong, he was not his opponent. And surely he couldn't kill someone with just a leaf. Their battle began. Their speed was very fast. Every time they collided, it created a terrible shockwave. This is a battle that ordinary people cannot intervene in. After a few moves, the old man couldn't do anything. He began to think carefully. Could this kid be a disciple of P1-P2? He immediately asked who his master was. Yelha didn't answer but raised his sword straight to the sky. The old man's aura began to change. A circle of 8 trigrams appeared behind his back. It was a sword technique that only Wudong elders could perform. Taiji Quan Wanching sword. One blow could injure his arm. Taking advantage of that moment, he moved back and attacked him. Ranhota struck a powerful sword to push him back. At this moment, only the old man was seen running in the air. A terrifying sword strike shook the ground. Everyone was blown away by it. It had been a long time since he had to use all his strength in a battle, but it was over. Suddenly, at this moment, a beam of light behind the smoke startled the old man. A huge dragon appeared behind Yelha's back. He even asked if the old man was still hiding his skills. Why was he so weak? Then let me have to fight with all my strength. The old man rushed forward to attack him again but was pushed back by the sword. The old man's strength was not much left. He could only put everything into one last move. The two passed each other like gliding through life. The old man was the loser. This familiar feeling, he had met many years ago. His name was John Yelha. He also recognized that he was the son of the strongest swordsman. So losing is right. This time, Wufongshan camp won. Everyone cheered for their victory non-stop, and the leader of Mansu Merchant Association couldn't believe what was happening before his eyes. His master was so strong but lost to a kid. The old man even told his disciple not to be foolish and confront him. If not, who knows when they will die? This news immediately spread throughout Hunan province. There is no way that someone who has become an elder of a sect can lose to a bandit like that. The little guy rumored to be Jimudu Daotaku is originally a monster. Now there is no more power daring to confront Wufongshan camp anymore to preserve the honor of Fanzhou Shangbang and Wushubang sect. The owner of Fanzhou Shangbang tried his best to silence those who witnessed it, but news of Fanzhou Shangbang's defeat quickly spread throughout Hunan province. Along with that, the reputation of the camp became more famous, and the 10 people remaining in Wufongshan camp were also called Wufongshan. Qing Lin sect people are also paying attention to this matter. Initially just accepting running deadlines, but unexpectedly they were so strong, and Dalu Hui will take place in a month. He must go there to see if they are qualified to become Hui or not. At this moment in Wufongshan camp, those who had fled from here before wanted to return once more. He begged frantically, making the leader very angry. However, this guy turned around 180 degrees and admitted that they didn't necessarily have to be recognized as Qing Lin and Qing Lin Dalu. They must prove that Wufongshan camp is not a bunch of scammers. I used to be very angry about that so that Yelha wouldn't have to bear too much responsibility like what just happened. We must be recognized as Qing Lin and Qing Lin Dalu. They must prove that Wufongshan camp is not a bunch of scammers, and when they leave, someone will need to take care of this place. So Camp Chu accepted those who had left him before when Yelha met Lao Junji at the same time. He tried to chase him away, but he was old and thick-skinned. He kept clinging to him. Ranhota began to tell stories about poor people being called new talents emerging. The first in Wudong and Tianxia, I have cultivated deep internal strength and mastered martial arts. Wudong has cultivated Taiji Xingqier sword for 30 years, but no matter how I try, I still can't rotate it. Tangu spoke quickly, then he wanted to learn from him. He started to shout loudly, I cannot pass on the evil martial arts to you. It was passed down to me by second brother. Old Chun Ji was taken aback. Who wants to learn martial arts in that temple? I just want to observe your cultivation. Ranho Ta suddenly rushed forward with a punch towards him. Although it did not hit him, the bamboo forest behind was destroyed, making him very curious. They decided on a deal. If the young hero gave him a piece of advice, he would point out the shortcomings of the young hero. I also realized that he was very strong, but he didn't know his own strength. If you understand this nature, your martial arts will also become deeper. In the end, Yelha also agreed to this. In the following days, the two trained together in combat. He was also very friendly with the children here, but he didn't like children that much, because like his half-brothers and sisters, they were always cunning and made fun of themselves. But old Chun Dui noticed that this camp was not like Luke Lam at all. Everyone here was kind. He even carried firewood for his ninth sister himself, which was clearly not the job of a noble elder. This place is very special, different from other camps. People from other camps are either bandits or robbers like those here, all of whom are fleeing because of their difficult lives. She also almost got sold into a brothel and had to flee to the mountains. She also told me how the brothers of Wufongshan camp saved Yelhai's life. He saw this place as his home and protected it, while at the same time Wufongshan too, who was defeated by his father years ago, returned to suffer as I did that day 20 years ago. Not a day goes by that I can forget Sword King, and outside of Moonsword Guest I will make all powerful sects kneel before this Wufongshan too. At the same time, two old men from Tandama Do Qing Hunan were collapsing after learning that Ngufong camp had won against the Mansu Merchant Association. They thought they would benefit and replace Ta Ji and join the Qing Lin sect. Now everything has gone down the river and down the sea. Then they shamelessly returned to Wufongshan camp and were naturally despised by everyone here. Seeing Yelha's Duonglong Treo sword, they thought it was dug up by some farmers working in the fields, but old Sim could tell at a glance that it was caused by a sword move, and only one person could do it. It was him. Big brother and second brother knew about their return of 5 people. They were the ringleaders. Everyone left camp before, but now thanks to Yelha Taji's teachings they have become strong enough to defeat me. 8th brother challenged him for daring to return here. I will show him that I am no longer Li Chosun of old. I thought he was still like before and rushed forward directly, but was knocked away by a punch from the 8th brother. These guys were shocked. He wasn't that strong before. But old man wasn't just arguing either. After all, he was one of Hunan's 3 evil heads. The attack could control him, while I really wanted to kill 8th brother. Old Chunzi appeared to save people and he immediately panicked non-stop. No way my attack could be blocked by one finger. Besides those John R.A. guys, there are still people as strong as that. After knowing it was Chunzi Danan, his face sweated profusely with fear like that. The rumor that he was defeated is true then. But Yelha also stepped forward without saying anything and attacked him directly. He was still angry about being beaten up and swore he would have to make the little brat pay for it. Feeling a tremendous force ahead, I ran to find that old Chunzi was training with Yelha, causing a great shock that shook the entire mountain. Old Chunzi had grown much stronger in recent days, with one sword move having a devastating power. I thought Yelha had lost, but he was not hurt at all. It was just a warm-up. He immediately launched the second form of the 9 Heaven Sword technique, Dragon Fire. The sky shook with a loud noise, as if it had been split in 2. If old Chunzi had used that move just now, he would have died instantly. Yelha's strength was increasing rapidly, and I decided to leave. If I were to get hurt while competing with the young hero, I would have to stay here for several more months. I also have to go back and protect my position as elder in my section. I will return. My time here has been very enjoyable, and I will always remember this kindness. In 3 months, they had supplemented each other a lot, and observing John Yelhai's growth process was even more meaningful. He will wait for the day when he appears among the top martial artists in the Central Plains. When summer came, he quietly left the camp, while the old man who had witnessed the scene earlier began to turn around for revenge. A month later, a fat man appeared at Wufongshan camp and was attacked by a mother bear for killing her cubs. He was Feng Mu Quan, who killed the mother bear with one blow. Let me introduce you briefly to Suk Muo, the head of Qing Lin's total momentum P1-P2. He is one of the strongest people who has never lost a battle. In the past, he was in Shaolin Temple but did not want to shave his beard and hair. He also has extraordinary physical strength and wants to become a Buddha, but sometimes he sees delicious chicken legs and can't resist eating them secretly. One day while cleaning a Buddha statue, he accidentally broke it and found an ancient martial arts scripture inside and Tianshui Luo Chen Qing. After defeating Tian Ma Quan, he left Shaolin Temple and wandered around the world. Soon after, he climbed to the position of total momentum of Qing Lin and made waves in the martial arts world. After accepting the 12 most outstanding disciples among the bandits in the world, their strength threatened even the elders of 7 sects and 2 schools. From then on, they created the 12 demon kings of Lu Lam, known as Death. And that fat man was one of them. I came to Wufongshan camp again and sat down arrogantly. Is this all there is to this mountain camp? But Yelha was also meditating and not present. In fact, he was sleeping well. The boss hid them for fear that Yelha would meet this old man. The mountain bandits only know about wine and food. Girls may be held by the 5 great families, merchant guilds and 7 sects 2 schools. Remember that and don't tarnish our Qing Lin reputation. Ranho Ta pointed straight at 9th sister and 10th sister, wanting to play dirty tricks. Fortunately, his brothers were able to distract him in time. Only then did he remember that his mission this time was to confirm whether they were qualified for Lu Lam's reputation or not. If not qualified, all will be destroyed. But in this Hunan region, Wufongshan camp's prestige is commendable and has contributed significantly to Qing Lin's reputation. It would be a pity to kill them all. So Lu Lam officially recognized Wufongshan camp. You guys, this time he came here to invite them to participate in Lu Lam's grand assembly in Jiangnan, which is what Camp Chu hopes for but cannot repay. Everyone immediately organized a wine reception for him. However, at Kai Vien this old man still dreamed of Yelha's sisters. Ranho Ta got angry and shouted loudly, "Bring those 2 girls from camp here quickly. If not, Wufongshan camp will become flat land today." Even though they tried to stop him, the fat man was still aggressive and forced 9th sister and 10th sister to serve him wine. The camp leader stepped forward to stop him, but the old man became even more angry and wanted to attack him. Everything in the camp belongs to the camp leader, and you don't offer it up? The boss and second boss had to cry and explain that it was all for his safety. Please speak a little softer, or there will be big trouble. The old man became even angrier and wanted to attack them, but Yelha woke up because of the noise. He even scolded the old man for being drunk and not going to sleep, but daring to come here and cause trouble. The old man saw that he was just a kid in the camp, thinking he had just woken up and was still dreaming, so he didn't act with his position. I can't bully children in Qing Lin. Ranho Ta called for the 2 sisters to come and serve him wine, but was called back by Yelha. The fat man immediately released a terrifying aura, attacking him until you beg for mercy, then I will let you die slowly. However, the old man's death aura was easily shattered by Yelha. The old man was clearly shocked at the time, as the move just now could have defeated middle-level people in 7 sects 2 schools. Who is he in 2 schools? The old man carefully thought about it again. Both the camp leader and deputy camp leader were ordinary. How could they stabilize this Hunan county? The reputation of Wufong camp is all due to this little guy. Interesting. I didn't use all my strength, you have some skill. He suddenly laughed loudly, calling the old man's name funny, like a male dog in breeding season. So it was named Dam Feng Miequan. The fat man rushed up angrily, attacking him with his unique poison technique Fong Bok Kat Treo, with an aura like a big snake attacking. He only used his unique two-fingered magic technique to defend against the old man. He had to break the rules and use the forbidden move AMTN Thursday La Tran Can. This is the martial arts taught by his master, Fa Tien Ma Quan, who has never lost. Even the elders of his sect were defeated in an instant. Unexpectedly, now he had to use it against the little guy. But his mouth couldn't open when his move was easily broken by Yel Ha. Ran Ho Ta immediately approached and prepared to launch a punch like a big dragon attacking Lao. He even saw death preparing to receive him under Huang Tuan. Fortunately, the camp leader shouted loudly for mercy for him. If Lao died here, Wufeng's chance of joining Qing Lin would also be gone. Although the punch hadn't hit yet, Lao's hands and feet were already shaking and he couldn't stand up. This kid is really a monster. If it weren't for the camp leader saving his life just now, Lao would have definitely gone up on the scoreboard. Although he hadn't used all his strength yet, his fighting spirit seemed to have been exhausted. Because he felt overwhelmed, just like standing in front of his master Fa Tien Ma Quan. Ran Ho Ta begged because he was too drunk, so he made a mess. Yel Ha actually believed it. Next time please drink wine obediently a little bit. Ran Ho Ta forced him to greet his brothers before leaving because Lao's life also had to follow so as not to disturb his sleep. This matter will have to be reported to the total camp leader, if not Lu Lam's grand assembly this time is considered completely ruined. Very quickly everyone set off for Njiang to attend Qing Lin's grand assembly. They had to stop by some villages on their way to Van and including Hopfi where Nangong Najia was stationed. It would not be good to provoke 7 sects Liman before Qing Lin's grand assembly takes place. And absolutely do not make enemies with Nandong by Sword King, one of 10 great masters of heaven and earth. Everyone had to disguise themselves as Tan people to avoid trouble, and the 2 girls and Taji dressed up beautifully. They rarely had the chance to dress up like this to go out and have fun, and our main character also looked very handsome when dressed neatly. The camp leader assigned those who stayed behind to watch the camp on the way, and if they met anyone, they had to say they were from Pai Long Man of Hunan. That night, the group encountered Jiang Han Ian, the great executor of Su One Merchant Guild. He wanted to go with them but was refused. Just looking at the old man, one could recognize that their merchant guild seemed to have just gone through something and could not afford to be hit by stray bullets. And the name Pai Long Man of Hunan, he had never heard of before, and there was still a noble aura emanating from the world, especially Yel Ha. The swordsman of the merchant guild would not be able to resist Lu Ming Man who was hunting them. If it weren't for the people of Wufongshan camp going with them, they would all have to die without a doubt. He had to take out all his assets so that they could let him go with them, but the camp leader refused because there was no bait offered. There is no such thing as a free lunch. The merchant guild must face such a strong enemy in order to produce that amount of gold. If they participate in this matter, it will be very dangerous. Although it is a pity, it has already been done. They cannot be dragged into chaos. At this moment, the black assassin rushed to attack Ninth Sister Johnson and had to risk his life to block her sword for her. Everyone was panicking at this point. Especially the assassin. He was immediately knocked out by Yel Ha. Everyone had to leave immediately, but it was too late. The assassins were coming in droves. Yel Ha took on the task of dealing with all of them, letting everyone lead San to the village for treatment. All the assassins rushed up to attack him. But one by one they were killed with one blow. He asked who they were but they were knocked out before they could speak. So there is no answer. The leader of their group with squinting eyes recognized that he was not an ordinary person. They all rushed up and at this moment, the group of camp leaders also stopped hesitantly. Old Man Sim recognized that ahead, the people of the trade association seemed to have been captured and if they wanted to treat San's dog, they had to go through there. The people of Yuming Jiao wanted him to hand over something and at this moment there was someone even more terrifying behind him. He was Bok Dao Ma Kwanungzuki. He was very strong and his moves were very strange. He just threw a stick into the ground and all the martial artists were swallowed by a black hole. On Yelha's side, he had to use the first form of Nine Heavens' nine-sword technique P1-P2 to destroy them. Although he defeated them all, he was slightly injured. Ranhota immediately chased after everyone else. Baitday's wound became more and more dangerous and there were spies around. There was no other way out, and below, the martial artists of the Merchant Guild had also been killed. They were forcing the trade leader to hand over Baitlin Zhou. His face turned ugly at this time as he looked at his daughter to see how stubborn you could be. I will order my subordinates to have fun with your daughter. They immediately took action. Only the girl's screams for help could be heard. At this point, he had no choice but to hand over the bowl of spirit beads. But if they got their hands on it, they would only grow stronger, and who knows if the nightmare from 20 years ago would repeat itself. But now there was no other way. After getting it, he still didn't spare the screaming girl. Enjoy yourselves, he said to his men. Just remember to clean up and kill everyone here. Their screams for help grew more and more pitiful until the camp leader couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "You damn dogs! The Flying Dragon sect will exterminate you all." The assassins immediately attacked him, but they were too weak and were cut down by the camp leader. Everyone had to show their faces now. They had sworn to live and die together, so both sides engaged in a fierce battle. Old Sim also had to show off some of his martial arts skills. The boss ran over to the merchant group and asked if anyone knew medicine. He wanted to save the eighth brother. The situation became even more tense as everyone was exhausted, but there were still many assassins. The boss personally knocked out one of them at this point. His internal strength had grown very strong after being guided by Yelha, but he never expected it to be this strong. Perhaps this was his natural talent, just discovered a little late. At this point, the boss turned to everyone and apologized because he also had a wife and children and was a father. He couldn't bear to see what had happened earlier. No one blamed him, on the contrary, their morale increased even more. They were willing to die rather than be humiliated. As long as they could hold out for a while, Yelha would soon arrive. The scar-faced man also had to take action himself at this point, emitting a dangerous aura that made everyone aware of the situation. The entire elite combat team had been defeated. The combat team was an elite force trained to exterminate the 7 righteous sects. If they could defeat that team, then we couldn't win. The team leader, after losing face with the white-headed demon army, immediately took action against his men and killed them all with one basic move. The game had officially begun now as the camp leader attacked him in combination with Ninth Sister, but her sword was broken by him and then she was hit by one of his punches. His round knife was very powerful and could cause damage at any range with his strength. Everyone rushed up at once but was quickly knocked down. At this point, Old Sim couldn't hold back anymore and charged forward. He was the strongest among them but had been holding back until now. The two immediately engaged in a fierce battle, but Old Sim was quickly knocked away by him. Everyone fell into despair as they had no strength left to fight back. Old Sim laughed loudly at this point, confusing him. He immediately sensed a terrifying aura approaching him. Yelha had returned. Before dying, he managed to say, "You believe that this little brat can do something? That's why you dare to act so arrogantly." Everyone now seemed to have been resurrected from death, their faces showing no worry. Even the white-headed demon king felt strange, wondering where their confidence came from. They all trusted Yelha, their 7th brother. He flew down to confront him and asked, "Were you the one who hurt my brothers?" His face was covered in blue veins as he rushed forward to attack him, but his weapon was broken by a blow from Yelha. He even gave him a punch in the face. He thought to himself that he couldn't lose face in front of the Demon King. He then went crazy and attacked him again. Yelha's hand was already preparing to swing his sword, directly confronting him head-on. In an instant, his weapon was knocked away. At this moment, As he prepared to die, the white-headed demon king took the blow for him. Even his strength was pushed away. He's just panicking, he thought to himself as he was beaten back by an unknown brat. Old Man then had to seriously unleash his soul-stealing magic shadow image. 2 large iron pillars were thrown at him. Old Sim immediately shouted for him to quickly get away from there, but it was too late. A black aura enveloped his entire body and no one could survive that move of the white-headed demon king. He was trapped inside, feeling like his body had fallen into a swamp and he couldn't use his strength. This was the ultimate move he used, and no one in the martial arts world could defeat his soul-stealing magic shadow image. A technique that captures the shadow of an opponent to steal their soul. Since becoming one of the 10 demon kings of the Yuming sect, he had been almost invincible. Around him was only an infinite void like hell. For the first time, Yelha felt death approaching so closely in this hopeless situation where there seemed to be no way out. He remembered Chun Di, who had once warned him to be careful with spells. As long as someone destroyed the initial deployment phase, they could escape. He remembered that there were 4 strange things around him that must have been the source of this spell. Only by destroying them could he escape. The 7th form of 9 Heavens consciousness, Dragon Claw Sandstance, was unleashed outside and everyone felt a terrible shock. With a loud bang, his spell was shattered by him. Even the white-headed demon king was shocked at this point. How could someone who had fallen into the soul-stealing magic shadow image escape? Just with his strength alone? The scar-faced subordinate didn't understand the situation in front of him and thought that the demon king was preparing to unleash a great move, but looking at his face didn't seem like it. The white-headed demon king was worried at this point and sent some black team juniors up to fight Yelha, but what could they do? Even the combat team couldn't beat them back, so how could a reconnaissance team like them have any chance of winning? They all rushed up to attack him at once and whoever he struck down. The white-headed demon king at this point also had to admit fearfully that even if he used all his strength, he was not a match for Yelha. Although the martial arts world is vast, it is not easy for a young master like this to appear so easily. He could become an obstacle to their sect and must be killed. But his most important mission was to take away the 8-beat order. If the existence of their sect were exposed at this moment, it would be very dangerous. Before running away, he even attacked the merchant group leader to kill people and cover up their tracks. This made Yelha even angrier and unleashed the 8th form of 9 Heavens sword technique, 9 Dragons Flying Body, which struck like a giant dragon with its powerful technique that was thought to have completely disappeared but reappeared once again. Compared to 20 years ago, Shangtian was even stronger, and the black team was destroyed, leaving only the team leader to flee with numerous injuries. The white-headed demon king also ran faster than Jacques to survive, and the injuries of the brothers were not light. They had to treat the 10 great heroes of Wufong first. Yelha blamed himself for not arriving earlier. The brothers in Wufongshan camp were the most important people to him. Thank you all for watching the videos. Please help me with 1 subscription to reach 1,000 subs for my channel. Thank you very much. Yelha decided to become stronger to protect everyone, and this Su-1 merchant leader would definitely repay their kindness. He also wanted to ask them one thing, to bring his family to a safe place, and then he breathed his last. In the end, everyone accepted his last wish. After a few days of treatment, the group set off again, going straight ahead. They would reach the territory of Shicha Mountain Camp of 8 Merits. Now they could only reveal their identity as Wufongshan Camp and pass through the mountain with bandits. Surely they wouldn't rob them? At the same time, the white-headed demon king also arrived at the section. He brought the 8 spirit beads with 6 other demon kings here, led by Yua Fairy Sun, who caused great chaos 20 years ago. The establishment of 700 white-headed demon kings was a decision made by the great sect leader. We still don't know his actions now, so there's no need to rush to hold a soul-sending ceremony for the heavenly-headed demon king. If 7 white-headed demon kings were created, then using the remaining 8 bead spirits to strengthen the 10-headed demon kings is only a matter of time. If all 7 white-headed demon kings are present here, we can take this opportunity to pacify the world, as the sect leader said. The white-headed demon king also mentioned that half of the Black Shadow team was killed or injured in this mission. Even the Black Shadow team leader and 10-headed demon king couldn't withstand a blow from him. Even though I am a spellcaster, I am confident that I can defeat anyone. This surprised everyone. I had never seen such martial arts before. He spun around in midair 9 times and descended like thunder. Yuha Fairy's son immediately recognized that move. It was what had defeated her 20 years ago. At this moment, Tong Tien Blood Department of Shicha Mountain Camp of 8 Merits, Hegriel, was blocking everyone's way and asking for money. If you want to live, each person must pay 200 taels here. The boss thought to himself, these guys are too greedy. Normally they only charge 20 taels for robbery and they have to have some humanity. They even discuss big and small things. Giving money to these guys is really wasteful. He even sneered, making the bandits think that these people were stupid. They hadn't finished speaking when they were knocked away by him with gold coins. 1 coin per person was enough to make them all behave. Just like that, they couldn't participate in the Luke Lam conference anymore. At this moment, Yuha Fairy's son also recognized his true identity. 20 years ago, on orders from the sect leader, she went to Jiangnan to establish a sect branch. At that time, he and the young master of Nangong family came to disrupt and use that move. That arrogant man has since been known as Ruan Sword Guest. But now she was much stronger than before and must avenge her humiliation from that year. When that day comes, the Nangong family and Long Zhuangwei will no longer appear in martial arts history ever again. At this moment, in a village near Wansuping, something extremely terrible happened. More bandits came here as the Qing Lin conference approached. And Yelha's group had also arrived here. Other bandits looked at them and probably just went for numbers. They didn't care about fighting at all. That night, Mandaka came to talk to him because leader number 9 was busy taking care of Bat Ca and she didn't want to disturb them. He also told her about his childhood. Mandaka cried like a child. She couldn't believe that a little monster like him had such a painful past. The leader of Jianzhou camp also came to report that Wufongshan camp had attacked them to protect the caravan. But Patianma Jun didn't pay attention to this matter and even asked if he wanted to show off his incompetence. Jianzhou camp was defeated by Wufongshan camp, which has only appeared for a short time. He meant to say that to me, Ma Feng. Mao Jun from Shurimo Jun was also here. Hearing about Wufongshan camp, he became even more angry. His face was full of blue veins because of the humiliation last time, but he was scolded by Patianma Jun. Because he lost to a young man under 20 years old, he had to say, at that time, my disciple was too drunk. Patianma Jun decided that in this Qing Lin conference, I will face Yelha to wash away the shame. If he loses again this time, he will have to give up his position and practice for another 10 years. It means being tortured by the master for 10 years. This is truly hell that I don't want but have to accept. If I have to face that little guy, it's dangerous and I have to find another way. The old man shamelessly went to Wufongshan camp again, and they naturally treated him like family and invited him in for a drink. The way they called each other brothers made him very angry. If it weren't for Yelha being here, he would have personally slapped each one. This old man came here after being called brother by leader number 9 and leader number 10. He came here to inform them that the Qing Lin conference will start tomorrow and last for 4 days. Ranho Ta asked who would be the first representative of Wufongshan camp and had to tell me after making the list. Everyone turned towards Yelha. Of course he would be the strongest. The cunning old man thought these guys were too stupid. If he couldn't defeat him, then he would make him unable to participate in the Qing Lin conference from the beginning. The next morning, the conference began and Patianma Jun declared that from today on, it's not just about mountain bandits passing through 7 factions. Lai Meng is the #1 faction in the world. From now on, no one who values righteousness can look down on us. We Qing Lin will dominate for thousands of years. The competition will also begin, and the most outstanding people will be chosen as protectors or administrators of the Qing Lin faction. Rura, the owner of Longma Mountain, was the first one to rush up, and his opponent was Mac, the owner of Beifong Mountain. They even brought out my wanted poster and teased me until everyone laughed. It's really interesting. The bald old man was quickly defeated but still managed to argue. So the boring matches continued on stage. Feng Miaquan wasn't worried at all and was busy drinking because last night he had arranged a plan. He said if Yelha performed too well at the conference, he would have to take on the position of the Qing Lin faction. And then he wouldn't be able to return to Wufongshan camp either. So everyone agreed that this trip was just for sightseeing and having a few fights for fun without showing off. Looking at the lively crowd on stage cheering and shouting made me itch for action, so I called out for my big sword and went out for a pee break. It's really Kaiha. Laoshan also realized that. A monster who once defeated Tianji Shangren, the top martial artist in his faction, but now had to stand here watching those street vendors dancing wildly made it unbearable. Not long after he left, the experts began to appear. The leader of Dai Beat Camp faced off against the bald man, who was a direct disciple of P1-P2, the bald man. At that time, he also felt pressure from above and had to fight seriously. His whole body emitted a terrifying aura, and then he unleashed Qian Shi Shuadao, causing countless snakes to attack, shaking the ground. After all, he was a disciple of P1-P2, and at the same time Yelha was taking a walk. He was so itchy that he chopped at the old tree in front of him. But then a voice rang out, making him stop immediately. Just now I almost killed the guy hiding behind me, but you didn't even feel his presence. I don't know what he's doing here, maybe he's a mountain bandit. He just said he was hiding in the forest to sleep because he was bored. Ranhota followed me. His mouth kept saying, at a gathering of old mountain bandits, it's better to be young. Let's make friends. Ranhota attacked with a leaf. He really is an expert, itching for a fight. He unleashed Hak Tui Ling Gyoi Hoa, using leaves as knives to attack him. Yelha directly flew in and smashed that move with just one sword. At this moment on the stage, Hong Biao Bald Man was celebrating his victory, but he didn't know that the leader of that camp hadn't been defeated yet. His anger caused a large spider to appear and he survived that move. Next, he used Yoshio de Duchong and rushed straight towards Gwyn Bald Man. With a loud bang, he, being one of Shurimo Jun, was completely defeated, causing everyone to panic. Shurimo Jun was defeated by the leader of an unknown group of mountain bandits, and his internal energy was also never seen before. This is getting interesting. After the first day, P1-P2 had to heal the bald man. He wanted to use his injured energy to verify the identity of that unknown leader. They must have some kind of plot. In P1-P2's hand was a black spider, which had infiltrated the internal energy of the bald man. It belonged to Mofa Chang, and it seemed that Yuming Jiao still hadn't given up their wild dreams. They were hiding among the leaders to take over 5 protector positions in the Qing Lin faction's patrol. Those people were called Mo Bingshi II by Mofa Chang and would face Shurimo Jun. They wanted to use Qing Lin as an excuse to attack martial arts. At this moment P1-P2 remembered GLC and shouted loudly, but Du Xiaoye had disappeared when it started. He had to immediately send someone to search for him, and it was very likely that shameless guy was at Wufongshan camp. He followed Yelha all the way here, and if he couldn't beat him, then he brought a bunch of wine to compete with him. He directly carried a big jar of wine on his back and played bloodthirsty until everyone was dumbfounded. Yelha also found this guy interesting. Big brother and second brother have to come out for me. This scene surprised Yelha too. He even winked at the girl, making her nauseous, and everyone drank until they were drunk or not going home. This wine is really top-notch. Laoshan also secretly evaluated. He doesn't look like someone from camp. Who could have prepared so much precious wine in this mountainous area? Let's drink first and think later. The experts of Qing Lin were looking for Du Xiaoye but couldn't find him anywhere, which made him furious, but luckily Feng Miaquan came to report that they had found Du Xiaoye. The young lady ordered her subordinates to go down to the warehouse and bring Hoa Kok wine to Wufongshan camp. This made the demon lord even angrier. Wufongshan camp, how? Still imagining, they are the invaders of the demon group. That's his only daughter. The fat man thought again, those fools couldn't be the demon army of the demon group. The aura emanating from their bodies, running very much like people of the righteous faction. The demon lord turned to ask Old Man Fong because among them, he was the one who had the most contact with Wufongshan camp. This royal family took the opportunity to take revenge and said, they are people of the demon group. But at that time, Little Master was lying drunk, with poor alcohol tolerance. From here, one can also detect a strong stream of anger and terror from the demon lord. While the boss was going to pee, the people of Liantiao camp rushed up to attack him secretly. Because he was drunk, the boss was easily defeated. They still wanted to drown him, as this made the boss sober up. At that time, a guy rushed up and was punched. The people still thought that the camp leader of Wufeng camp was just a fool, but if not, then it would be tight. The camp leader of Liantiao ran back and only knew how to rush forward. The boss had no weapons and could not use martial arts, but the hidden strength in his body was divine power, carrying a large rock and throwing it away, causing a junior of Liantiao to run away. By then, he shouted again. It seems there is some misunderstanding with my brothers above. A scary guy appeared. It was really unexpected that I had a chance to see this interesting scene. You should be blamed for letting me see an interesting scene in the arena instead of here. Unexpectedly able to see the strength of Wufongshan camp leader, he is Death Shadow Ghost Army. Seeing his divine power makes it even more certain that the camp leader is a person of the demon group rushing to attack. That night, the boss disappeared and today is the last day of the Qing Lin Congress. Several demon group members also began to appear, rushing directly onto the stage to challenge 12 Ghost Army. They want to defeat them, undermine their reputation and divide Qing Lin faction internally. At the same time, everyone from Wufongshan camp is also looking for their camp leader but can't find him. They only saw Liantiao camp leader here. After asking gently, he also had to admit that their boss was seriously injured and lost a lot of blood. Finally they found their camp leader by a stream, although he was unconscious but still breathing. This made the monster really angry because the person who attacked their boss was Demon Shadow Ghost Army, Demon Lord's eldest disciple. He also messaged Liantiao camp leader saying, "Waiting for you on stage 2. This old man wants to die." At this time, little camp leader returned to Qing Lin Congress to resolve misunderstandings with father. But she panicked when 12 Ghost Army had already lost a demon group on stage. The Qing Lin faction's reputation is being trampled on. At this moment, a terrifying murderous aura appeared behind little camp leader. He stepped straight onto the stage and challenged one move that could blow away demon group. Next he shouted loudly, "Demon Shadow Ghost Army, come out!" along with strong anger that shook everyone. He also shouted loudly, "He is in the demon group hiding in Qing Lin Congress." Finally they showed their faces and then rushed directly onto the stage to attack him. As soon as the sword move was released, the old man panicked too. Why does a young man at this age have such terrifying strength? However, he was also very confident because he had been directly taught by his master in Tian A Shilua Chan Jing. When all the old people suddenly soared one move, Demon Shadow Ho Len Keen carried down the terrifying aura. No one has ever been able to withstand this blow. He continuously used Heavenly Sword to attack him, but it did not penetrate the dissipating smoke. Yelha's body still stood like a statue. Everyone was shocked because besides the Demon Lord, Demon Shadow was the strongest person in Qing Lin. If not for the P Big Brothero Thursday, It would be impossible to withstand Heavenly Sword. Just now this red-haired guy was so terrifying, Demon Shadow had turned pale. He was preparing to endure the wrath of a monster. Really, 9 Heaven Sword Technique Phase 4 was released, Wind Fire. Heavenly Sword of Demon Shadow was sucked into it, causing a terrifying shock that blew everyone away. Demon Shadow's body at this time could not move and was continuously punched by him. Mane flew down to the stage. Jia still hadn't vented his anger and rushed down to give him another beating. It wasn't until he lay flat that he stopped. When he intended to kill him, the Demon Lord had to intervene at the same time. The old man's people were running here, but everything had become a battlefield. Demon Lord advised him to stop. It seems enough already, so stop here. You know, the relationship between master and disciple is no different from mother and child. If you want to chase and kill my family members to the end, you can only show up. At this time Ioha became even angrier. It was you who touched my family first, why can't I touch your family? If the old man doesn't get out of the way, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yelha struck with a sword towards 9 Heaven Sword Technique Phase 2. Long Vu Thien Thuan. And here the Demon Lord rushed directly with Am Thien Tu La Thuan Kayat. Yelha immediately felt his terrifying strength, even stronger than Chun Ji Old Man. Several times he was directly pushed away and his heavy body hit the wall. And the Demon Lord also confirmed that he was not from the demon group. But what is this terrifying power? He doesn't know either. Yelha rushed up again. This time he had to release 9 Heaven Sword Technique Phase 8, 9 Dragons Transformed Body. The aura was like a big dragon, striking down and making everyone terrified. Demon Lord also had to release all his strength, rushing forward with 2LA's aura behind him. No one has ever witnessed this terrifying scene. The two continuously fought in midair. Demon Lord seemed very happy because he remembered when he was young, he himself was also arrogant. He used his strength to press down and had to land on the stage. A loud shock echoed and this place seemed to have been destroyed. Just as Yelha still wanted to continue fighting, Lao Sim brought Lao Dai Vung here. His wounds were no longer dangerous. Yelha still wanted to kill the Demon Shadow Ghost army but was stopped by Lao Dai. That's enough here, it's time to go home. The manager immediately announced that the Qing Lin Congress had ended. Everything here has become a mess. Mariak witnessed for the first time someone who could face her father directly and still be handsome like that. Our girl fell in love with him already, ignoring her angry father still chasing after handsome guys. That night, the Demon Shadow Ghost Army came to apologize to Lao Dai because he had misunderstood that they were people of the demon group. Lao Dai finally forgave him as a favor and Yelha was also sitting and chatting thinly with the Demon Lord. He declared that he would become the chief patrol of Qing Lin, but looking at his face, he didn't seem to like it much. At this time a warrant card was presented in front of Yelha. Yelha used chopsticks to push the warrant card back while eating and saying, I don't want to bother much anymore and can't return to the mountain camp for a few years. Demon Lord also used his chopsticks to block it. Then he asked, who said that? Yelha replied, Fong Mu Quan, one of your disciples said that. Demon Lord sighed, Fong drunk talking about drunk worms, they're saying unreasonable things like that? He thought again of Demon Shadow then insisted. A normal mountain camp is a demon sect, these disciples don't have any names that can help me. Suddenly at this time he smiled slyly and replied, anyway if Dai Tuk didn't say anything then I wouldn't have any faith in your mountain camp's chief patrol or chief bandit or something. I don't need a demon lord, I'm not satisfied with the adjustment, I'm not a total bandit but Qing Lin's total camp, I'm not an old man, but the total camp leader of Qing Lin. Demon Lord, one of the 10 great masters in the world, continued to fight with chopsticks with Yelha and asked, who's your master? Yelha asked again, master? I don't have a master's degree. Demon Lord was furious and commented. Indeed an arrogant person who doesn't know the world above, I should take the opportunity to teach you again. On this side, Yell Ha was also not inferior, as if he had recovered after chewing a few pieces of meat. Old age, but working too hard is a big deal, old man. So the two used more strength and the warrant card immediately flew out. At this time a woman's hand reached out and grabbed the warrant card. This woman is Li Shui. She scolded the two people. Why? The arena is destroyed. Now do you two want to destroy this tent too? Naturally hearing that, then glaring over and looking back, Li Shui continued to say, besides men eating together, how can there be no wine? Demon Lord sternly asked, you want to drink again? Is there any girl who drinks every day? Then Li Shui slammed the warrant card down on the table and said, Yell Ha brother. Yell Ha silly asked again, brother what? Li Shui asked again, why did you throw away such a good warrant card? Those other bandits don't have it, so they are very anxious. Naturally silly asked, may I ask who are you? Do we know each other? On this side Demon Lord had poured wine and scolded angry all night to drink wine together. Why pretend not to know? Suddenly startled and let out a sound, then remembered Li Shui's image from before and her image holding a wine glass, now exactly the same. Demon Lord advertised, this is my son, little leader of Qing Lin, total camp hack tweeteen. Li Shui Yell Ha opened his mouth and smiled, so that's it, no wonder I kept thinking. At this time Li Shui glanced at Yell Ha with affection. Yell Ha commented, compared to internal strength, muscle strength is too weak indeed. When Li Shui heard it she shouted, you just say that? Don't you see that I'm beautiful? Yell Ha teased his soul and became excited. Switching back to Wufongshan camp, old man number 4 panicked, asking Yell Ha, what is that girl, even a beauty? Demon Lord Fen Mokongjian, old man's daughter, then thought, indeed no wonder, I always find it strange. Suddenly at this time he opened his mouth and smiled brightly, whether it's a beauty or not I don't know, anyway it's a girl. Old man number 4 naively asked, but why did Li Shui dress as a man? Probably for some special reason, maybe to keep her identity secret. At this time 10th sister looked towards Yell Ha and asked, but brother, with that thing brother is wearing on his hip, what is it? It turned out that Yell Ha had worn the warrant card on his hip. 10th sister sadly asked, brother said he didn't want to leave the mountain camp or be chief patrol or something? But at this time Yell Ha just noticed the warrant card and he said, hung this thing. Then he recounted what Li Shui explained. At that time she said, yes, chief patrol will come and solve the problem camps. It may also be a bit cumbersome, but there is one thing on the way back to your mountain camp: if someone deliberately provokes, causing serious injury to your camp leader. After hearing these words, Ni also felt reasonable. Li Shui continued to say, your authority will be raised. Will your family be safe and sound on their way back to Wufongshan mountain? Hearing this, 10th sister fell into silence. Old man number 4 also commented, clearly the road here was not smooth either. Old man Fen Mokongjian also interrupted. I also think it seems that the road back to Wufongshan is really not easy. So Yell Ha else agrees. I also think so, so just accept it first, no matter what anyone says, as long as there is this warrant card in hand. Suddenly leading the words, Li Shui said, nothing about touching you guys. They still hate not being able to entertain you guys. At this time Thien Duong liked to clap his hands and then laughed with his eyes closed and said, that means, seeing Thien Duong's expression like that. Old man number 4 and Cuu Moai both turned around to look. Old man number 4 asked, big brother on this side. Thien Duong was so happy that he cried and said, Wufongshan, we finally have a chief patrol holding high power in Qing Lin. What joy is greater than this? This word made Cuu Moai fall into silence. Old man number 4 sighed and said, thinking back, it was also true, so all the brothers and sisters were excited, then shouted loudly. Naturally ours has become chief patrol of Qing Lin already. This word makes the bandits around also stupid motherfucker. Naturally embarrassed, blushing, said, let's go. Then they ran away. The Wufongshan tri shouted to obey the order, chief patrol on this side. Li Shui shouted, Ha, chief patrol Yell Ha. This made a few people startled and looked back. Li Shui kept waving her hand on the observation deck, then spoke loudly, next time we meet let's drink for 3 days and 3 nights. Yelha also happily waved back, then sighed, oh my god, addicted to alcohol again? Okay, next time we meet. So the Wufongshan formation pulled each other out. Li Shui's side, looking at him leaving alone also made me bored. Naturally, this name is really interesting. So the first task of Chief Patrol when his father issues an order to lower this job makes the Demon Lord a little surprised. Li Shui happily said let him become a sword to destroy the criminals who cannot be forgiven for destroying the Qing Lin conference. Demon Lord smiled and praised, I thought you just went out to drink, but I didn't expect the little leader of Qing Lin to be so smart. Li Shui nestled close to the Demon Lord's chest and said, of course, who am I the daughter of? Demon Lord scolded, old head, still acting like a baby? On this side, Yelha was happy, thinking finally he could return to Wufongshan. Switching scenes, Nangong the Jia. There was a guy riding a horse rushing back. He ran all the way to Nangong the Jia's second mansion. At this time, Fen Mokongjian's eldest daughter also discovered this. From small events bringing new relationships starting, the Qing Lin conference finally ended, and accordingly Yelha, with great responsibility Chief Patrol of Qing Lin, began a new journey in martial arts. Everything has just begun. Siu Moai held up the map and sighed, it will be very difficult to lead a horse-drawn carriage through the mountain for Big Brother. The next place we will go is right here. Op Phi. Switching scenes, Nangong the Jia horse is rushing water. Then a guy walked in and he drank water. Fen Mokongqian's house owner reminded you to drink slowly. It would be better if it were full. This guy finished drinking, then put down the teacup. Then he respectfully said, because I was in a hurry, I was a little impatient when I came here. Please forgive Nangong, master. Nangong's house owner calmly replied, haha, nothing. You just take your time. This guy apologized for having a request. I respectfully ask for your help with Nangong's daughter's strength. The Nangong house owner suddenly opened his eyes wide. The guy continued, Nangong's daughter is praised by people for her talent attracting people with her beautiful appearance, called Hoa Dung Dak Tom. I hope that Miss can lend her strength to help Shintian Tianmin with that talent. Please forgive me for this rudeness. The Nangong house owner smiled and asked again, Hoa Dung Dak Tom? You overpraise me. It's just ordinary speculation. Luckily, my little girl is just an ordinary girl. After that, he put down the teacup and said, but Shintian Tianmin's leader came directly to Nangong. Shouldn't I also listen to the leader's story? Please feel free to speak. The old man respectfully said, thank you very much. The matter is ancient black sword Dang Tai, a name that has emerged in the martial arts world recently, is a disciple of Shintian Tianmin. 3 days ago, he left Shintian Tianmin, and after leaving it was said that there was no more news. The Nangong house owner was surprised and asked, disappeared? A strong young man left home for only a few days, calling it missing is a bit too much. The old man confirmed, yes, but what I am worried about is that a strange thing has happened. After he disappeared for a few days, a strange rumor began to emerge. P1-P2, a sect that I have never heard of, will help Shintian Tianmin. The Nangong house owner was extremely surprised. P1-P2? I have never heard of that section. The old man on this side slammed the table down and asked, I have never asked for help from any sect named P1-P2. Their appearance coincides with the disappearance of our disciple. How can such a strange thing happen? Nangong house owner said again, although the rumor about P1-P2 is very suspicious, don't you see that this matter for my daughter to solve is not too much? The old man pleaded again, Master, please help. If you lend a hand to help Shintian Tianmin, this kindness Shintian Tianmin will never forget. After hearing it, the Nangong house owner thought for a long time, then spoke up and said, I know, please wait a moment. The old man respectfully performed the ceremony and thanked the master. At this time Nangong's eldest son went to a room. He knocked on the door. Nangong Yen's voice echoed out, brother, just come in. The young man sighed, then opened the door and saw Nangong Yen already sitting on the table. This guy spoke up, Did I intend to surprise my sister? My sister knows it's me. Nangong Yen was silent. The young man laughed again, indeed cannot deceive Yen Muoi. Nangong Yen was still very economical with words before and after. Then she stood up and looked towards her brother, truly pure beauty. Nangong Yen advanced to the main hall. Elder brother, she explained. So father sent me to call my sister to help Shintian Tianmen. In my opinion, we should listen carefully to the beginning and end of the matter. If my sister sees anything strange, just refuse coldly. This brother always puts Yen Muoi's safety first. But Nangong Yen still didn't say anything, seeing her two children had arrived. The Nangong house owner asked, Yen Ni has arrived? The old man saw Nangong Yen nodding at him, then hurriedly performed the ceremony. Nangong Miss, thank you miss for taking your precious time to help our disciple. I am sincerely grateful. Nangong's young master also said, you must be tired from traveling here. First, calm down. Please explain more so that Yen Muoi can understand more about the situation. The old man respectfully said, yes, about that matter it is like this. Then he told the story endlessly. Nangong's young master stroked his chin and thought, so that's what happened. The old man also confirmed, yes. The Nangong house owner asked again, Qin Niamin didn't say anything? The old man stammered again, Qin Niamin, they say Pai Long Meng could be a new sect or a name used to impersonate orthodox sections. They want to know who caused this or clarify whether Pai Long Meng really wants to help Shintian Tianmen or not. If we cannot clarify the identity of Pai Long Meng, at least we still want to know Dang Tai, whether that child is still alive or dead. The Nangong house owner suddenly looked at the old man with a serious face for a while. The old man shuddered. On this side, Nangong Yen suddenly stood up. Nangong's young master was also confused, then hurriedly called, Yen Muoi, wait a minute. Nangong Yen still silently walked outside. Nangong's young master shouted again, Yen Muoi, wait a minute. Then she slammed the door shut in front of her brother's surprise. This made the old man on this side confused. The Nangong house owner laughed, haha. After hearing the leader's story, Yen Ni quickly prepared to go to Shintian Tianmen. Nangong young master also contributed, you see Yen Muoi has a calm personality and speaks very little but handles everything very quickly. Then the two fathers and sons of Nangong laughed again. The old man at this time thought, I trusted Hoa Dung Dak Tom, so I came here hoping she wouldn't disappoint me. Some time later an aunt said to Nangong young master, please help me find my son. Nangong's young master replied, we will try our best, so if you remember anything just say it all. And Nangong Yen was still silent behind her. She thought to herself, 4 days ago suddenly disappeared disciple of Shintian Tianmen ancient black sword Dang Tai. According to what they said, ancient black sword is the name that suits that talented young swordsman. A person like that disappeared without a trace in 3 days. He must be in danger after getting involved in some incident. The aunt continued to cry and sob. Nangong's young master concluded, everything seems more complicated than we think. Nangong Yen was still silent as usual. Nangong young master continued. According to his mother's words, I rushed to skip breakfast and ran to Shintian Tianmen to investigate the disappearance of a monk 3 days ago. Both this matter and the disappearance of the monk, we don't know what is happening. Nangong Yen suddenly spoke up, first let's go to the inn in the neighboring village. Nangong's young master was also surprised, huh? Inn? Yen Muoi, what are you suddenly saying? Nangong's young master fell into silence for a while, then smiled toe-to-toe. Ha, okay, how do I know what my sister is thinking? Switching scenes in the next village, and 2 people pushed the door and then the waiter spoke up, please come in. Nangong's young master asked, hey, I have something to ask. The guy respectfully replied, yes. Nangong young master asked again. 3 days ago did any guy named Ancient Black Sword, about 20 years old, come here? Nangong Yen looked at him again with her eyes. The waiter said again, I know it's hard for you to remember your customers from 3 days ago. Nangong's young master kicked back, I just asked that. Suddenly this guy spoke up loudly, yes I remember. Nangong's young master thought to himself, the one asking is me, so why does he look at Yan Muoi and answer ha? This guy started enthusiastically telling. Speaking of that day, something happened that turned this into a pile of ruins. Nangong's young master suddenly stopped after hearing it. As for Nangong Yen, she was still silent as usual. Nangong Yen suddenly fell into imagination at this time. She saw the scene in front of her, a guy smashed the table to pieces, the table shattered into many pieces. Dang Tai spoke up and asked, what the hell are you doing? Breaking Sun Dao Huang Weidong? This Huang Weidong guy gritted his teeth and said, the disciples of Shintian Tianmen dare to step in here. Dang Tai spoke up loudly, I just came here to investigate the disappearance of a monk that happened recently. I don't want to cause trouble with Vien Daoman you guys. Huang Weidong said again, is that so? Then what? Every time I see the face of you Shintian Tianmen guys, my eyes get prickly. So he pulled out his sword on this side. Dang Tai also pulled out his sword and said, I really wanted to resolve it peacefully, but if you still want to make trouble then I won't be lenient. Huang Weidong also rushed forward and praised his bravery. Then the two guys rushed into each other and fought chaotically. Dang Tai pressed his sword down and spoke up loudly, if you are also a person of the Orthodox sect, then you should also join forces with me to investigate the disappearance of this monk. If you have no intention of helping then don't hinder me. Huang Weidong snorted coldly, is this not something that Shintian Tianmen you guys should do? The disappearance of a monk or anything else has nothing to do with me. So Dang Tai spoke up close, damn it, and swung his sword across a line. Huang Weidong leaned back to avoid it. At that moment Huang Weidong lifted one leg up, one kicked straight into Dang Tai's chin. Then he coiled his other leg up, a powerful kicked Dang Tai out. Dang Tai ate 2 consecutive kicks then fell backwards on the floor. The Huang Weidong guy on this side also landed. He swung his sword up and spoke up close, just those missing monks, why risk their lives for them? On this side naturally sitting with the Wufong group. They're fighting over a trivial matter. Fen Mokongjian Bok blocked and said, looking at it also sees that bald guy occupying the upper position. Can't they be quieter for a bit? These strong young men are really heavenly. At this time he was gnawing on a big piece of meat, also sticking his mouth in. If Lao Bok thought so then I would also get a thigh for the bald Fen Mokongjian guy. The old head laughed slyly, big brother betting on an unfinished thigh is a bit funny. At that moment a gold coin flew out at an alter speed, immediately hitting the blade of the bald Huang Weidong guy. Then the coin bounced back and stuck into the pillar. The shock just now made Huang Weidong's sword-holding arm tremble violently. He screamed and shouted loudly, whoever returns to reality. Morong Yen saw the coin stuck in the pillar. She walked over and pulled out the gold coin, then asked the waiter, did anyone stop that fight? This guy hurriedly replied, yes, there was a young-looking knight who had a coin stuck in there. At that time there was a red-haired guy speaking loudly to 2 others, too noisy, I can't eat rice. Morong Yen asked again, did that person mention which sect he came from? The waiter suddenly smiled with squinted eyes and said, I remember, it seems like Pai Long Meng. He said it was Pai Long Meng. Nangong young master thought again, Pai Long Meng is the sect that Shintian Tianmen's leader mentioned. Morong Yen was still silent as usual. She thought it was that mysterious sect.